Morning. Let's just make sure. Oh, right. Good morning. My name is Elizabeth Tyson, and I am coming from the Woodrow Wilson International Center for Scholars. We take academic research and bring it to bear on U.S. public policy. At the Wilson Center, I'm within the Science and Technology Innovation Program, and we focus on the convergence and emergence of new technologies and how to maximize their benefits and minimize the risks while in governance. How do we do that? Well, we do it through original research, strategic workshops, bringing the right stakeholders into the room all at the same time, and public outreach. However, I'm here today to talk about our citizen science arm and what we do there. Specifically in citizen science, we work to build capacity within the federal government for recognizing this as an excellent resource and connecting associations to federal agencies and federal projects and NGOs and grassroots groups. And so before I launch into a bit of the history on the movement within the US government, I'll talk about some neat projects that have been going on, just to give you a taste of what federal U.S. agencies look like. So the first example is the soil moisture science, which was just recently, NASA just recently launched a satellite to measure soil moisture. So this is really important in terms of measuring soil moisture and I want to say dehydration. I don't know, maybe I've been going through French and English, so I'm kind of confused. To measure moisture in the land. However, you need to ground truth this, so they're asking the public to take measurements in their backyard and to weigh the soil so you can have ground truth observations in regards to what the satellite is observing. And this is a project run by NASA and NOAA. The National Park Service this year completed 119 bioblitzes across a variety of different parks, and they focused on different species depending on what was of interest to each park. Lastly, this is a project run by the Environmental Protection Agency, and it's called the Local Environmental Observer Network. They ask local indigenous tribes to monitor kind of emerging anomalies in the ecology, so this could be invasive species or this could be phenology observations. I think they recently extended beyond Alaska and they're actually international now. And if you're curious to learn more about different federally sponsored citizen science and crowdsourcing projects, you can go to our database of U.S. federal citizen science projects. I think we've hit 306 cataloged in here, and all of these are sponsored or co-sponsored with different NGOs and the government. So this movement has been pretty fast-paced recently, I would say, and in effort of time, I will kind of go quickly through the brief history in this current administration. But in 2013, a grassroots community of practitioners of citizen science from all different federal agencies, this is the National Institutes for Health, this is NASA, this is the U.S. Geological Survey, and they all came together and kind of started to share best practices. And then in 2013, the current administration announced a national action plan, and one of the priority areas was to grow citizen science and crowdsourcing and public participation in scientific research. And then in 2015 was a big year. There was an act introduced in Congress to kind of clarify some of the legal issues around what is a volunteer in the U.S. government and how do they participate. Our funding agency, the National Science Foundation, declared it as a priority area. And then lastly, we launched citizenscience.gov, which is a great resource not just for federal employees in the US, but for other practitioners all around the world. There's an excellent toolkit that describes how you move through the process and how you integrate volunteers. Just some notable key players in the past 8 years on who have brought this to light and made it a priority within the U.S. federal government have been the community, the grassroots community of federal practitioners, agency coordinators that we now have appointed in each agency to direct these projects, the Office of Science and Technology Policy, and of course our academic partners. So I'm just going to mention two projects briefly that we do. Transition strategy, as you all know, when an administration changes over, there is change. So what we did was we gathered 10 recommendations from all practitioners within the federal government and outside. So when incoming leadership comes in, they can see why is citizen science important, why does it matter, and why should we keep funding it. So cross your fingers that someone reads it. This is what it looks like. And lastly, I'll just mention another very important project that we're doing. I think a couple of the presentations yesterday mentioned standardization is kind of underway on metadata. So how do you get this data from the ground to the cloud, and how do you share this data? It's really important to be inclusive in this process. So we're working with 3 nodes in Europe, the US, and Australia, interviewing projects and asking how they get their data to decision makers. And if there was a metadata standardization to ensue, how could we do it inclusively? What's important to you? And how do we make sure that we move forward in an inclusive way? That research will be available at the Citizen Science Association conference in St. Paul, May of next year. So I thank you, and we're very collaborative. We like to work on a variety of projects. It does not just have to be government oriented, so I look forward to talking to you more. Thanks.
Thank you.